Have you ever wondered why some women just disappear after a conversation that, in your head, seemed perfect? Why does she ignore you, even when you were attentive, affectionate, present? The truth is, you may be saying everything right, but you're not saying it the right way. And that's where feminine psychology applied to attraction comes in. The key that few men know, but that completely transforms the way a woman sees you, responds to you, and most importantly, desires you. Have you ever noticed how some words make her eyes light up? How at certain times can a simple gesture or phrase change the mood of the conversation? This is no coincidence. This is emotional strategy. It's psychology. And if you haven't yet mastered this silent and powerful language that activates the female subconscious, then you are probably being overlooked by women who could be addicted to you. Not because you're not good enough, but because you still don't understand how the female mind behind desire works. What I'm going to show you today is not the generic advice you see out there. It has nothing to do with superficial tricks. It's about triggering the right emotional points. The phrases you will hear in this video were handpicked, based on studies of female behavior and real experiences of men who came to understand and conquer difficult, mysterious, mature women, and even those who seemed completely out of reach. And why does this work? Because the female mind does not respond to logic. It responds to deep emotional stimuli. And when you learn to speak directly to her emotions, you no longer need to chase it. She starts thinking about you, missing you, fantasy, to wish. Without you changing your essence, just changing the words you use, the phrases I will reveal here are like hidden keys, and each one opens a door in her desire that had been closed until now. So if you've ever felt like a woman tested you, confused you, or ignored you, you're in the right place. Because now, you're going to find out what many men never knew, but you will know now. And that changes everything. Because on this channel, you are not alone. Here, each video is a step towards a new level of perception, achievement, and emotional control. He is part of a select group of men who decided to stop being rejected, forgotten, or placed in the famous maybe zone. Here you enter the game strategically, intelligently, emotionally sharp, and leave with real power in your hands. If you are ready for this new chapter, write in the comments now, with strength and conviction, I act with emotional intelligence, or achievement begins in my mind. Because it's not enough to just watch. You need to mentally declare yourself part of this transformation. This is a territory for men who want more than just attention. They want true desire. They want presence in her mind and body. And since you've come this far, do one simple thing that changes the game. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's not just for support. It's because your every click shows YouTube that this content is important, and that allows more men, like you, to find the right path. And yes, believe me, this change in mentality goes far beyond love life. When you learn to master emotions, expressions, and words, even your financial life starts to respond differently. Everything improves when you understand how she feels, and especially, how to make her feel about you. What if I told you that everything you've been trying so far, those long conversations, the sincere compliments, the constant attention, aren't what really makes a woman want you? Because what activates true female desire is hidden elsewhere. It's between the lines, in the right words said in the right way, at the right time. In this video, you will discover 5 phrases that are not common. These are phrases that act as hidden triggers within the female mind. They don't just attract attention. They provoke internal reactions that she herself cannot control. And that's why, after learning this, you will no longer depend on luck or chance to win over a woman. You will understand how the invisible game of emotional attraction works. And the best, no need to force, no need to beg, no need to change who you are. Feminine psychology applied to attraction and relationships reveals what most men will never know. And today, you will start using it to your advantage. The impact of these phrases goes far, beyond superficial achievement. They activate emotional areas that create memory, connection, and desire. Women are attracted to those who know how to touch emotions with strategy, not those who just try to please. This is where you will leave the forgotten group and join the select group of men who have mastered the silent art of emotional influence. Each phrase that I will reveal was built based on emotional language, patterns of female behavior and stimuli that awaken genuine, deep, and often uncontrollable attraction. So if you want more than just being another nice guy, stay with me. What you're about to learn could make a woman think of you when she's alone in the room, or even miss you without knowing why. And if you really want to be part of this group of strategic men, comment below now. I act with emotional intelligence, or I use words that mark her soul. I want to see who is committed to this new level of achievement. One of the men who follows this channel sent me a message that may be very similar to your reality. He said he was always the type of guy who respected, praised, and was there when she needed him. He does everything right, or at least he thought he did. He was always polite, always offered his shoulder, always responded quickly. But even then, she disappeared. First, it reduced the responses, then it took days to respond, until it simply disappeared. And he stood there, not understanding what he did wrong. But the truth is that he didn't do anything wrong. The problem is, he didn't know what really sparks desire and connection in a woman's mind. He was playing by the wrong rules. When I showed him the first hypnotic phrase that you will hear later in this video, he used it. And the result? Before even ending the conversation, she was the one who brought up the topic again. She didn't just respond, she wanted to continue. The same woman who had previously been cold and distant was now curious, involved, emotionally affected. Because when a man accesses the right codes of female psychology, everything changes. He stops being just a good guy and becomes the man who messes with her subconscious. The kind of man she misses even when she doesn't understand why. The type of man who activates sensations that even she can't explain. This is what you will start building from today. And it doesn't matter if you've been ignored, if you've been told she was just a friend, or if she said she wasn't ready. What you will learn here could completely change this game. Because women don't respond to logic, they respond to emotional impact. And if this has started to make sense to you, tell me in the comments. I will never be forgotten. Or, I activate her emotions with strategy. I want to see who is understanding that this content is a game changer. The first phrase you need to master is simple, but it carries an emotional power that most men don't even imagine. She says it like this: "There's something in your eyes that I still don't understand, but it pulls at me in a strange way." Now, you might think, why does this phrase work so well? Because it mixes two elements that provoke an instant emotional response in the female mind: vulnerability and mystery. When you say that there is something about her that pulls you, but that you can't explain, you activate two deep psychological triggers. The first is attention, because she immediately wants to know what exactly you saw. The second is internal doubt, because she begins to wonder what is so special about her look that caught your attention. It makes her think about you even after the conversation is over. And the most powerful? You are not directly telling her that she is beautiful or attractive. You are insinuating something that goes beyond the physical. You're talking about an inexplicable connection. You're saying that there's something about her that moves you in a way that even you can't explain. This creates an emotional atmosphere where she feels there is something different between you. This phrase does not force intimacy, but it suggests depth. And a woman who feels unique in the perception of a man begins to see that man differently. The truth is that the female gaze holds more emotional information than any word. When you point this out subtly and strategically, you show that you see beyond what other men see. It shows that you pay attention to what is not obvious, and that for a woman is magnetic. Try saying this phrase in a moment of pause, looking into her eyes, without smiling too much, as if you were trying to understand something that really intrigues you. You are not praising. You are revealing that there is something that awakens you. And even she doesn't know what it is. If you're feeling like this is different from anything you've ever tried, comment below. I activate her gaze with intention, or she will remember me for what I made her feel. I want to see who has already started to see the power of these words. The second phrase is even more provocative and works with a kind of power that few men know how to use correctly. It is simple, but it carries an irresistible psychological tension for the female mind. You look at her, in a moment of slight silence, and say, "I noticed something about you, but I don't know if I should say it now." And then you wait. Not complete, doesn't explain, does not reveal. This purposeful pause is what triggers one of the strongest instincts in female psychology: curiosity. This phrase is like planting a seed in her thoughts, a seed that grows on its own, because her mind starts looking for the answer you didn't give. And the most interesting thing is that this type of suggestion creates a silent emotional game that she enters into without realizing it. You have created a riddle, and the riddle is about her. Women feel the need to understand themselves through the eyes of others. When you show that you have noticed something but hide what it is, you become a mysterious mirror, someone who saw what even she doesn't know she shows. And this makes her connect to you emotionally and unconsciously. Plus, this phrase gives you control of the conversation without seeming manipulative. You're not asking for her attention. You are saying, with class, that there is a detail about her that caught your attention, and that you will reveal it when you feel the time is right. This creates expectation, emotional tension, and traps her in the psychological field of interest. She may continue the conversation normally, but inside, she will be focused on finding out what it was you saw. This is using female psychology applied strategically. This is creating emotional connection through language. And when you learn to master this type of phrase, you stop chasing it, because it is she who starts to get closer, trying to break the mystery. If you already feel that this makes sense and want to test this phrase today, comment below. I arouse her curiosity with intention, or she will want to know what only I realized. I want to see who is understanding the true power of emotional communication. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful phrases when it comes to unconscious desire, because unlike the others, this one touches on something even deeper: emotional fantasy. The phrase is direct, but it carries a sensorial charge that immediately reaches her subconscious. You look at her sincerely, without seeming rehearsed, and say, "I don't know how to explain it, but the way you smile makes me want to hold you and not let go." This phrase combines two intense triggers. First, the mental action of imagining the touch, the holding. Second, the real emotion of will. And together, these two elements activate the most affectionate and intimate side of a woman. Because when she hears this, she's not just getting a compliment. She is being placed mentally within a scene. A scene in which she is desired not only physically, but emotionally as well. And that's the key point. When you say you can't explain it, you show vulnerability. You position yourself as someone who is being affected by it in an authentic way. This breaks down defenses. And when you keep saying that you want to hold her and not let go, you are not saying, "I want to hold you." It's saying, "You awaken something in me that goes beyond the moment." It is a desire for permanence, of bonding. And this is extremely rare to hear from a man, which makes a woman feel valued on a level that few can achieve. And it doesn't matter if it's a more reserved woman or a more extroverted one. They all react, even if they don't show it right away. Because this phrase activates the emotional field that most men never reach, that of the feeling of being important in a unique way. This is what creates attachment. That's what creates memories. If you've ever felt like a woman smiled in a way that disarmed you, this is the right time to use this phrase. Test it, observe the reaction, and then come back here to tell me. Comment below. I awaken her emotional side with presence, or she will feel that it is different with me. This will show that you are absorbing and applying the psychology of achievement strategically. This next phrase is one of the most subtle, yet most effective at creating something most men ignore: the invisible emotional bond. When used at the right time, it doesn't just draw attention, it connects. She makes a woman feel part of something rare, special, almost inexplicable. The sentence goes like this: "You know when you feel like you've known someone longer than you should? That's how I feel about you." What this phrase carries is more than romanticism. It awakens a deep trigger within female psychology, something we call a sense of emotional belonging. When you say this, you are triggering an emotional memory that she didn't even know was there. You are taking the conversation out of the rational realm and into the emotional realm, into the territory where feelings are born without logic, where connections are created effortlessly. What's more, this phrase suggests that what is happening between you is not something common. It's a rare coincidence, almost as if it were a destiny, a soul connection that doesn't need to be explained. This takes the pressure off traditional conquest and puts you in a unique position. The man she feels she already knows, but still wants to discover. And when a woman feels this, she starts to project a story between you without even realizing it. She begins to see you not as a stranger trying to impress her, but as someone who is already part of her life in some way. This completely changes the game. And the most interesting thing? This phrase even works on a first date. Because what counts is not time, it's emotional intensity. When you bring this type of energy to the conversation, you leave a mark on her emotional memory. You plant a doubt that she will want to resolve, why do I feel this way about him? This makes her think of you when she's alone, when she's listening to music, or even looking at the ceiling before bed. If you are ready to generate this type of connection, comment below. I create bonds that she doesn't understand, or she will feel like she already knew me. I want to see who understands the power of silent emotional connection. That last sentence is one of the strongest triggers to create a lasting emotional impact. She doesn't demand touch. She doesn't demand exaggerated praise. She doesn't even demand physical intimacy. She only insinuates what most men never have the courage to express truthfully. You look into her eyes with a slight tone of farewell and say, I don't know when I'll see you again, but I already know I'll miss it here. This phrase works because it plants, almost imperceptibly, a feeling that is extremely powerful in female psychology: anticipatory longing. Before the date even ends, you are saying that what is happening between you already has an emotional value, it already has an imprint. This creates a feeling of scarcity, of something rare, which may not be repeated often. And everything that is rare, the mind values more. You are not directly saying, I want to see you again. It's going further. It is stating that the connection that exists in the present moment is enough to leave an emotional absence when it is over. This changes the way she perceives that moment. Everything gains more weight: the conversation, the silence, the touch, the way you look at her. Everything starts to be felt more intensely. And that emotional intensity is what she will take with her when you part. This phrase activates her affective memory and sets the stage for her to think about you even when you're no longer around. It's not manipulation. It is strategic emotional awareness. It's knowing how to use words that create presence even in absence. And when a woman misses a specific moment with you, she starts looking for new ways to relive it. And that's how you enter her mind in a deep, subtle, and continuous way. If you want to start mastering this skill and planting this type of presence, comment below. I miss you before I go, or she will feel my absence as if it were a presence. So I know that you are truly absorbing and applying the power of emotional psychology to female conquest. Now, after all these phrases that act as deep emotional triggers, I want to give you something even stronger: a bonus phrase. One of those that almost no man has the courage to use, not because it's offensive, but because it demands truth. And that's precisely what makes it so powerful. This is the phrase that shows vulnerability, authenticity, and creates a type of connection that cannot be rehearsed. There's one thing I never say to anyone, but when I'm with you, I feel like I can be who I really am. This phrase, said sincerely, breaks down any defensive barriers she may have, because she feels at that exact moment that you are opening up not to impress her, but because she feels emotional security. This generates an automatic mirroring. She also begins to feel freer to be herself. This is applied female psychology at a high level. It's the opposite of mind games. It's real connection. When a man says he can be who he really is with a woman, he activates something that few words can provoke: the desire to be his emotional safe haven. And when she feels like she's that place for you, the dynamic changes. She gets emotionally involved without realizing it. Because unconsciously, every woman wants to be the space where a man reveals himself, and not where he hides who he is. This phrase works even more when said in moments of silence, when the atmosphere is light but intimate. And the secret is to not look like you're playing. It has to come from the truth, even if adapted to your style. Because when there is authenticity, there is impact. And emotional impact creates memory. She will remember this phrase. He'll remember the way you said it. You'll remember how you felt when you heard that. What's more, it will compare you to everyone else who has never said anything like that. This is how you become unforgettable. If this phrase made sense to you and you feel like you want to start expressing yourself with more emotional power, comment below, "I connect with authenticity," or "She will remember me for what I revealed." This shows that you are going beyond the surface and accessing the true code of strategic emotional achievement. These sentences you just met are not just beautiful or well-structured. They work because they were designed to access emotional zones that she often doesn't even fully understand. When a man uses words like this, with emotional intention and mastery of feminine psychology applied to attraction and relationships, he stops being perceived as just another person and starts being truly felt. And feeling for a woman is everything, because women don't fall in love with logic, they fall in love with sensation. And every sentence you hear here is a portal to that feeling. They are built on the right triggers: curiosity, desire, connection, belonging, and emotional intimacy. You don't need to memorize sentences. You need to understand what is behind each one. Because when you understand the emotional impact that these words have, you begin to express yourself in a natural and powerful way. The kind of expression that remains even when the conversation ends. And that's what you'll discover in the next video. How to make her think about you even in silence. How to provoke emotional presence even in absence. How to make her miss something she can't explain herself. That's the next step. Because now that you have these phrases, the game changes. And if you've made it this far, you're already ahead of the majority. He's closer to becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to chase because he learns to be remembered. And more than that, emotionally desired. So if this moved you and made you rethink your way of communicating, comment now. "I am an emotional memory in her mind," or "I awaken feelings even in silence." And stay with me, because what comes now will show you how to completely master this invisible game of emotional conquest. If you felt that this video gave you something that no one has ever told you clearly, it's because you are already at another level of emotional perception. Here we are not talking about empty tricks or ready-made phrases that work with anyone. We are talking about something deeper, more strategic, and infinitely more true. The domain of feminine psychology applied to attraction and relationships. What you heard here today is not the type of content you find out there. Because it wasn't made for the curious, it was made for men who are really ready to awaken real feelings in women. Men who no longer want to beg for attention, but rather provoke emotional connection, silent desire, presence even in absence. And this is only possible when you understand how it works inside. How she feels, how she reacts, how she creates attachment. And in the next video, I'll show you something even more powerful. What she feels for you and will never confess. The emotional reaction that many women hide, but that appears when you use the right words, with the right energy, at the right moment. This will give you an emotional advantage that very few men have, and you won't need to be prettier, richer, or more experienced. You will need to be more aware. So if you want to continue dominating this invisible game with emotional intelligence, effective strategy, and impactful language, click now on the next video. There you will discover a truth that can completely change the way you relate to women, and especially the way they start to miss you. And if all this made sense to you, comment below. I choose to become emotionally irresistible, or I understand what she feels, even when she doesn't say it. I want to see who will continue this journey with me until the end, because what comes next is even stronger.